Now, it says it's for the people who are struggling to control the AI to get the results they want. That's all of us. We are in it together. I'll give you some hints, and I have some great talented co-hosts here, and I'm sure they can give you some hints. And if you run across something, I certainly hope you'll share it with us. But we will try to get the best possible results out of AI. And once again, this is the same format: introduction, demonstration, Q&A. But as I say, especially this class is tell me what you want to see. Tell me what's giving you problems. And I did write down the answers that you did when you signed up so that we can address those. But if there's anything else, feel free. And we may take a look at the new character and role building tonight, maybe after the recording's over. So we will do that. And I will stop the screen share. Basically, a lot of the questions had to do with getting better prose, which is there are tricks you can do, and we'll take a look at some of those. Get Sudorwrite screen up. A lot in the prose is controlled by your style and your outline, and of course your beats. Now, Nicole and Tabby just did a class on beats, and it is up in the Discord right now. Do take a look at that. That is very valuable information. Share my screen. And so you have, I'm still on our original thing, but if you look at the style, you have 40 words, and we talked about how to get them if you don't know the style that you want, if you don't know how to describe it, you can ask the AI to describe it, and it does a pretty good job. In the chat, you can mention authors' names to get their style. Now, I'll tell you, urban fantasies, if you name any urban fantasy author, it will give you the same description of their style. If you name any specific genre of romance, it will give you a description of their style. But if you put in an author's name in the style box, it's liable to bring in part of that author's world. So it may bring in their character names. It may bring in their settings. So that's one reason why you want to avoid the author's names in the style box. This one that we did for our, what do we call it? Gothic horror. Okay. Somebody had said they wanted to know how not to get flowery prose. And this definitely didn't give us flowery prose because we said somber tone, bleak mood, simple vocabulary, short sentence. Now, sometimes you can tell it. No purple prose, simple language. Just describe to it what it is you want. And the more you see it going off track that way, the more that you can emphasize. You can put it in your style. You can also put it in your head, in the header of your beat. And there was something else I wanted to say about that. And you can tell it lots of dialogue, little dialogue. If you wanted to drive your dialogue, you can also tell it what type of dialogue you want. If your whole piece has certain dialogue style. Now, if a certain character has a dialogue style, that goes in your character box. And for each character, you can talk about the manner of speaking. If you want a sample of dialogue, you can put it in there. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. One of the classes, we told it somebody had a Southern drawl, and all of a sudden everybody in the chapter had a Southern drawl. I think the new character boxes might help with that, but sometimes you have to be very specific per character. Does Does that give you some hints, David? I know you were really talking about dialogue. But use your style box, use your character box. And talk about dialogue. I don't know whether you could hear him or not. That was my bird screeching. And Tanya wants to know about guided write. Guided write. Let me get a. We don't have anything here. So let's use write first. Yeah, we use write. You're right. Now, guided write, and if there's one of those today and today only, things are going to change. But right now, guided write looks at your genre and your style and your chapter. Right. You want to talk about guided write and write, Nicole? Since they're your pet.
Sure. So this is my preferred way. I do use Sudorwrite a lot too, but using the auto and guided write's very relaxing for me. And I find it's helpful in two ways. So let's say you have a story started. To me, the easiest way to bring that in and continue that story is copy in each of your chapters into a document. And you can use the laser tools or auto guided write and continue that story there. I like it mostly just because it allows me to go back and forth. I can start typing out the scene, work it out, keep typing until I hit that roadblock and I need the AI's help. I can push that button. The AI will give me some ideas or write it for me. And of course, I can adjust. And then I can go back to typing whenever I want. I'm not as reliant or allowing the AI to do as much as inside Story Bible in that chapter generator. And it does look at style, genre, your linked chapter. So if she was typing in this document on the screen, there's nothing linked from the outline. You can tell in the box it says not in outline. So it's not going to read anything. But now it's in chapter 1, which means if she's writing there, it's also looking at that chapter 1 summary from the outline. So genre, style, whatever chapter is linked, it sees that summary and it sees your character box descriptions and coming soon, the world building. Really fun and relaxing way to write. I highly recommend playing around with it.
And it's a way to paint where you can let it do part of the writing for you, and then you can continue it. I think in one of the classes this week, it didn't.
Excuse me, Lynn. Nicole, you lost me completely with all of that. I'm sorry. I was under the impression that when you use guided write or anything like that, you could not put anything in. And now you're saying to me, I can put in the stuff from the story Bible.
You're getting it mixed up with fast draft. Fast draft, you can't have anything.
Right. Okay. It's a bit. I can do that now means so I can put that in and say I want to do this or that. Do I use quick chat for that or what?
No, you just come down here and you can put your cursor at the end. And if you say guided write, it will ask you for suggestions about what to write. If you say write, it will read back and just start writing on its own.
So you put your cursor where you want the changes to be made,
or where you want the addition to be made.
Thank you. Now that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a way to continue it.
Or to expand it.
Because you can't. Let's see if I'm right. I'll go back up here to Untitled. Oops, nope. Untitled 4. We were on 3, weren't we? Okay. If I click right here, I know what guided right. I want right. There's nothing there, so it can't continue. Okay.
But it will if you type. So let's say you were stuck on a story or just wanted to play around and said you had credits to burn.
That's what I'm talking about.
You can just hit that right button. It's going to make up something completely off the wall if you don't have anything in Story Bible. But let's say you had some characters and settings in the Story Bible. That's it. It would start making something up, including them. So it's really fun to play around with.
Okay, thank you. Now I follow.
Yeah. And the models for the right setting, It depends, as everything else does. It depends on how, if you're just testing out an idea, I'd say use a cheaper model. If you really want, you've got text here and you want to continue. I use it a lot of times for when I say I want a cliffhanger and it doesn't give me a cliffhanger. I use guided write and I ask it to end this chapter on a cliffhanger. And because I want it to fit into my other prose, I usually use the same model that I was using to write my chapter. But if I'm just experimenting with things, I'd pick a cheaper one. And I remember here we changed it to sonnet because we were messing around. Because sonnet is about half the price of opus, I think. And haikus is cheaper. And faster was cheap too. It depends on what you're really doing. There is no one right model. And also remember, I said the models differ from day to day, and sometimes they're more helpful than others. You might want to go, if you're having trouble with one model, switch to another one. And you can bounce back and forth.
Maybe if it matters, I yesterday, after watching one of your other program a couple of days ago, whenever it was, Lynn, I used fast, what do you call it, fast first draft for the first time. That's all I did. I just opened first draft and put in a basic concept. I ended up with a 2,500 word story.
Good.
I'm not sure whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. I was under the impression I probably might get 500 or 600 words. I got 2,500, which is now, frankly, the basis of a probably 5 to 10 book series. So I'm pretty happy.
Good. Yeah. It depends on what you're going for, whether that's good or bad.
I wasn't going for anything at all. I just put in the concept and hit fast first draft, and that's what I got. So
yeah,
it gave me a complete series concept.
Good. Yeah. First draft's a very helpful tool. And it works well for writing nonfiction if you're doing that too. Okay. Yeah. And Chris says too many models, too little time. That's absolutely the case. And a lot of people find their favorite model and they don't experiment much. And that's like me. And that's why I can't tell you too much about I call them the minor models, the experimental models, the smaller models, like Goliath, Mythomac, Minstrel, Gemini. But Nicole likes to play with models. And so she can tell you a lot about them. She and John Cruson did a video on the different models. And I've been liking Cloud Opus lately. I liked this prose, but sometimes Turbo does great. Yeah, you can go down all sorts of rabbit holes with testing your models. And what I have done in a lot of my books, and I'm trying to break myself of it mostly, but let me see if I can find a sample of running a chapter in almost every model. Shifter 1 doesn't have anything. I was testing. I've been using my shifter things to test with the new stuff because especially the world building and the characterization works for that a lot. Yeah, see, I have chapter 14. I don't say which model generated it. And this was carried in from the old story engine into the Bible, so it doesn't tell me much about it. But see, this is most accurate. This is fastest. And then this, sometimes I put this is chapter 19. So I can have a jillion chapter 1s with each particular model. That's nothing unusual for me. The first chapters, that's a more finished thing, I think. Let's see, chapters 1, maybe. Yeah. This is where I broke it up. Let me pull this over. Did you know you can pull this over so that you have a wider thing here? So if you want to see more of your labels, you can. And here's There's one with Claude, one with Fastest. Just play around, see what you like. But I try to, once I get into a story, sometimes I'll do chapter 1 and I'll use a lot of models. But then once I figure out which one's going to work best for that story, I'm trying to stick to it more, because kid bashing 5 different versions of chapter 1 is not fun. Let me pop
If
that
y'all-
just to hard.
If you're still stuck on trying to find a model you like, I recommend having an almost empty style box. You can tell it first person or third person, whatever tense you want. But I recommend leaving a style box empty and running a stride. So 2 beats of the same chapter, run that same stride through all of the models. That way you're not using a ton of words because you're just doing that stride, but that gives you like their base output. You're not guiding its style yet. You're just seeing what it does all on its own. And then from there you could go, hey, this listened really well. I like this, or I like this one's style. So you can start narrowing down from there which ones you want to work with and just focus on those. So then you can take that extra step of tweaking your style and finding which ones you really like and make it your go-to.
And Holly isn't here that I see. She wanted to talk about low quality output. And if she was more specific, if I knew what her problem was with the output, if it's too flowery, if it's too cliched, whatever, some of that you can work in your style box. Some of that you want to make sure that your outline has what you want to happen. And then, as we talked about beat, you want your beat to be specific. You want your beats to have enough action to give the AI room to write. You have to give it enough action that can show in 300 words or so. If you don't, it's going to either make something up, it's going to go over the same thing again and again. If your tone's not what you want it to be, you can go back and you can work on your style, or you can put style information in your header, especially if your style is going to change from chapter to chapter. In this story, I don't know whether they would all be as whatever this one is. But this was a horror, gothic horror, and I think it did a pretty good job of coming up with that. But you'll learn as you progress, and the more you write, you'll learn more how to tweak your beats and tweak your style. Oh, yes, follow the AI does tend to be melodramatic, and you can say, be realistic in your style box. You can say no flowery purple prose. You'll find the words that work better for the style that you're trying to achieve. And don't forget that in the style, you do have the match my style. So if you have particular writing that, and I suggest it be your writing, that you can put it in there and let the AI determine what that is. And Nicole added the link to her beats class. And I really strongly suggest that you watch that video, because that video is really helpful. And John Z wants to know about workflow. I can talk about mine and I'll let some others talk about theirs. What I have gotten where I like to do is I like to take, and they've made it easier for me now that they did Story Bible, because I will generate a chapter and then I will use the laser tools to edit that chapter and get it better than it came out before. And you saw me add I don't know whether this is probably the chapter where I added a cliffhanger because it wasn't a cliffhanger. And you can go back and you can do some rewrites. If you have a paragraph or section that you really don't like, you can use the rewrite on it. If you need to stretch it out, you can use the describe. And remember, it will have the sensory details that you can add. And the rewrite will have, I'm not going to rewrite anything, but I do want to show it to you. You have the can choices But then don't forget that you have you've got the customized. So you can tell it what you want to focus on the rewrite. And for me, I like to do several editing passes. And I will do it, not necessarily a rewrite, but I will add emotion. Sometimes I add description. If I'm not using AI, my first draft is almost all dialogue. It reads like a screenplay. So then I have to go back and I have to layer in the description. And then I really have to concentrate on layering in emotion because that's one of my weaknesses. And this is where some of the plugins come in. I know I wouldn't let you talk about plugins before, but plugins are user created. It's the customers that create them. It's not part of the main project. And they're written a lot of times to solve a problem that the project doesn't have. And let's take a look at some of the plugins. There's one that checks for cliches. I don't know how well that works anymore. I have a developmental editor evaluation, but it's hidden. If you don't already have it, you won't have it because as the code in the background keeps changing, it keeps breaking. And they don't tell the plugin creators when something's changed, or most of the time they don't realize it's going to break plugins, but a lot of times it does. Then what I'm looking for is, let's see, and John has a bunch of these beat plugins that will help. And they just did another class on Megawrite. You want to make sure you watch the Megawrite plugin classes because those are really good. And they have several with different models, but the Red Pen developer. Yeah, I don't have to highlight anything. It will read. And it may be one of the expensive ones to run. We'll have to look at I conducted a thorough developmental editing chapter. You've crafted captivating and atmospheric start to your story, a few areas that could benefit from revision. And then talking about the plot, the pacing in the opening feels sluggish, considering tightening the narrative by condensing some of the descriptive passages. Expediting her encounter, so they want to get them to meet faster. That was what I said when we generated it. It talks about her characterization, develop her internal monologue and her character development further, explore the emotional journey. And then it talks about the world building, where we have the gritty dystopian depiction of Los Angeles, more vivid sensory details, unique environmental settings, and the tone and style. It's evocative and poetic, melancholy and despair, but at times it veers into overly florid territory, which distracts from the core of the story. So consider a balance. And so here it gives a suggestion for the chapter. One thing you do want to watch out for is with the AIs, with their developmental edits, they come in and they like a lot of backstory and a lot of description at first. And most of the time, that's not what you want at the beginning of your story. You want to get into the action right quick. She says, condense the opening chapters, which would be good. But we don't want to spend too much time on her emotional journey this early on, I don't think.
Excuse me, Lynn, can you explain how you would condense this chapter?
I'll take out some of the flowery stuff in the.
Oh, okay. That's a manual thing.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. It depends. Because now what you can do is you can copy these off into a blank document, and then you can do a rewrite saying enhance the world building, or do a rewrite saying accelerate the pacing introduce him further so you can keep doing that. And if we look at my plugin, I have a evaluation. I have a rewriter. Now, I don't know whether it's going to work tonight or not. It just depends on what's happened in the background with the code. I changed the model. It used to be extremely expensive. Now, it may be just expensive, but we'll have to look. So this is supposed to give it the evaluation and then rewrite it. The other one did the same thing Red Pen does. It gave you an evaluation, but it didn't rewrite it. Oh, I forgot. And once the whole thing selected. So we'll do that. And then we'll run down here. There. Or you could take that chapter and use quick chat and say rewrite and copy the sections of what the Red Pen said that it needed to be done. Like that stuff. Here we go. Let me come back up and then I'll go back down and we'll see if it's. Okay, so here's the rewrite according to what my plugin thought it ought to do. And I won't take the time to go through and validate it and see if, I like it or not. But that's some ways of using it to edit with. Because your laser tools and your plugins are great editing. And what's the plugin? Which it's not Red Pen, is it, that makes people cry? Which one is it, Nicole?
It should be the Red Pen, right?
Yeah, Red Pen's pretty good. Of course, it refuses me. It doesn't like my content, so it doesn't do anything for me, but people love Red Pen. It can get brutal, though.
Yeah, I like Red Pen. Let's see, just for fun. I want to see what this is going to do. It's fun to play around with these. But remember, don't come down on the plugin creators too hard because they don't get compensated at all for this. Usually, I think the creators write the plugins to solve the problems they're having. Okay. There's a book cover prompt generator. Is this a contemporary romance bestseller? Let's see what it says about that. Highly unlikely to make the bestseller list within contemporary romance. A 1 out of a 5. It's more aligned with urban fantasy or supernatural thriller. We knew that. So then it does tell us how to change it to make it. But I just wanted to see what it would say. Because we certainly know that this is not a romance. It does a plugin class every Monday at 3 Eastern?
3 Central, I think.
Okay, 3 Central. And make sure and attend that. Usually they create some plugins there, especially if you're having a problem, you can bring it. Maybe they'll do a plugin for you and it will. She walks through them and says, let's see what this one does. And does this one work and this one not? We're working on, in the future sometime, having a classification for plugins, a rating. If this one stinks, don't use it, or something else. But I will give you access to that rewrite of mine. If you have I know what I wanted to do. Plugin. Let's go over plugins a bit. I've got some that are highlighted here. But is John's newest one, I think. It's really good to improve your beats. We can play with it in a minute. They've categorized them into different areas: narrative and plot, character development, editing and revision, scene enhancement, world building, analysis and feedback, marketing, genre, and lingual. But you can also search for plugins if you type in part of the title, if you happen to know what the title is. And if you've written some, you can go for yours, or you can go for the newest. But the default is the most popular. So let's look at some editing and revision ones. Okay. And here's one. I can't guarantee it. This was written by James on staff. I haven't tried it, but it delves with dialogue. David, you might want to give that a go and see if you like it. We got a show don't tell, humanitize the text, proofreading, copy editing, match my style. That probably works just the same way as Match My Style does, because I think Ryan is the developer that did Match My Style. The filter word checker, another show don't tell, outline a chapter. Line against 10 rules. Okay. Whatever. Oh, here's a remove purple prose that you might want to try. I'm not advocating for any of these. Most of these I don't run, and so I don't know. Oh, here's a chapter summary, which can work real well for your chapter glue. Yes, John, definitely. If you run structured beats and then run better beats, you get some good stuff. And I would highly recommend that, because that is something I use. But I'll run up and find mine. Unless I hit them for me too. Okay. What's the rewriter? And it is using, and one of the things, my instructions aren't real great. But you highlight the prose, and I say it's very expensive to run. I changed it but it looks at all your story Bible stuff. And it reads your genre and your highlighted text, and it makes suggestions for improvement, and then it rewrites for that. And now it's using open. So it's fairly expensive. Before it was using OpenAI GPT 432, because I wanted it to handle up to 5,000 words. And that is very expensive. Opus is slightly less expensive. We'll take a look and see what it's done for us. But let me grab that. And I will stick it in the chat. And now you should be able to use it. If you want to. And if it breaks, I'd appreciate you letting me know rather than posting a nasty message in the feedback channel about how it's not working and it's terrible and blah, blah, blah.
Miss Lynn, I think you need to go back a screen and then copy that link. Let me try it again.
Oh, okay. Was that the?
Not working. It's not the right.
Yeah.
It's not the right link.
Go back one. There you go. Copy
Yeah,
that.
one more. Yeah.
No, that's good. No, that was too far.
I know. We'll get that one. Yeah, we don't want you editing that. Actually, if you want to edit it, be my guest. That's the one that should help you. Did it get the whole thing? No, it didn't.
Oh, you didn't.
It didn't. Hang on. There you go. Try that one. Try that one. Perfect.
That one works.
So there's, like anything to do with a computer, there's many ways to do the same thing. And I will show you. Let's do. I don't think we've done chapter 2, have we? All the way down. Okay, so let's start with chapter 2. I don't remember what our and what we can do is we can let it generate the beats. Here's our okay. She has newfound power. She wanders the streets in a daze. She meets him. Okay. Thought she met him in chapter 1. It doesn't matter. This is just demo. What? Are you seeing this? Okay, write a brief dialogue exchange. Write a scene. Write a scene. I don't know what happened to beats. Those are not great. Let's copy those. And I'm going to pull them into one of our untitles. Ordinarily, I would create a new blank document. But I'm going to paste the beats here. And I am going to use John's good structured beat. I don't, yeah, I have to highlight it. Okay, I can highlight it. The one thing that gets me is you can't see the instructions when you're running it. You saw the instructions when you added it to your account, but I added it a long time ago and I'd forgotten it. So I forget whether it's supposed to have highlight stuff or not. Okay, so let's run structured beat. Okay. It evaluates the beat and then it tells you what that could easily fill 300 words. To correct this, beat 1 could focus solely on her internal state. 3 and 4 deal with her reaction. Ensure that beat 3 centers on her emotions relating to the internal struggle. And then it will rewrite the beats for you. Okay, implementing these changes should help. If I come back up here, I can't copy the whole frame. Yeah, I can. Let's do that. I can insert it. And then when I come down, I just highlight the beats that it wrote. Where did the beat start? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if I highlight all this, okay, so we have 13 beats. And then if I go to the plugins and I use Better Beats Opus, I got credit. He's got several better beat ones. What? You think this?
Where did that come from?
I have no. He's got some hard coding in there that we don't know about. Let's see if we got another better beat one. Well, this one's the one he says is the expensive one. I think it's got that. And I think let's try that one, see what happens. Okay, here we're back to Lilith. Los Angeles. Okay. That one works a little bit better, I think. And so what we can do is we can copy it, and then we can come up to chapter 2, and we can either start a new chapter 2 or we can erase these. Just erase these. And I'll copy that in, but it has a lot of other stuff that we don't need. Don't need the note instructions. And then I'm gonna put some of my usual header in. Third person and past tense. Point of view. Avoid telling. Show using action. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And then we'll come down here and we remember, anybody remember what we used? I think we used balance last time for this, didn't we? Or didn't we? We'll try balance. And it says it's going to cost 27,000 credits. And I think a lot of this chapter is also with chapter 1, so we really have to look at it closely if we cared about it. We got Zechariah in there real fast, and so that would probably be a better opening for our book. Okay, so he's some sort of protector, guardian kind of thing. Stories untold. Okay, we're getting melodramatic here. Yeah, we're really melodramatic. That he lost the shadow as a girl with fire in her veins. Jill whispered. Okay, let's pause it there. Oh, depth of the abysmal thing. Oh my goodness, it's really okay. Usually balance doesn't get that far off the mark. Oh. So what we can do, let's change the mode. And let's go to most accurate. Let's see if it's gonna, I'm gonna continue. I'm not gonna redo all that. And see if most accurate is going to behave better. All right. Luminescent energy, maybe. And this may have something to do with the Gothic in our genre. We might want to change that. We might want to look at the style. Yeah. I miss the rooms of a shattered face, learn to weave a room. Nah. Oh, yeah. We need to either change models or do some style tweaking. All right. It's not as bad as the other one. I think it ought to be okay. But we would need to tweak that. And now that the coal's gone, I can tell you she filled out the registration form, and she said she wants to know where the button is where you click it and you publish a best-selling book. If anybody finds it, let me know. But as
I
you
want that one
can see,
too.
AI can't write a publishable book without a lot of human intervention. You do need to play around with it, tweak it. There's ways that you can work within the Story Bible boxes. There's ways you can work within the beat. And you can also use plugins to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Anybody have any more questions about how to make your prose better?
You ask a question, Lynn, about the actual outline itself. If you use your own to make it fit within this word limit, if you've got a lot of chapters.
What a lot of us do is we work in Act. So bring in the chapters in Act 1 and then bring in the chapters in Act 2. And what you can do here is once you've got the chapter already set up, but now you can just put the chapter 1 and a placeholder, and then that'll save you words, but it will still number your chapters right. If you try to play around with it, you get, at least I get confused about chapter numbers, because if I come in and start a new project and call this chapter 11, it doesn't.
So it's all in the same project though. When you bring your action, you delete the previous one, and then so you do that. So what happens when you're bridging from, say, Act 1 to Act 2 to make sure that the Sudowrite knows what's in Act 1, otherwise you're going to have a mess.
Sudorwrite doesn't look at one chapter, doesn't look at another chapter, so the acts don't look at each other either. So
Fair
you
enough,
want to
I understand. So you would need to put something at the start of it to give it.
Yeah,
give it,
you would make sure
context.
that this chapter has information about what's happened before if it's needed.
That was what I was asking. Yes.
You could say,
so where would you do that, as a header? Or
in the header.
As a
you
header?
could say the last chapter ended with blah, blah, blah.
Thank you.
You can do that. We've asked them to look at that. And next, I think, on their list is expanding the space for the outline.
See, if I write, like you do, fantasy thrillers and shapeshifters, most of them have probably 25 to 30 chapters, and all of the, apart from the novel, only give you, say, 10 or 12 chapters. So you've got to create more, and they won't fit into the outline box.
Yeah, it depends on how detailed your summary is. But yeah, you can move them in and out. This one is 23, and it has, I can't remember what it was. Yeah, see, we still have space on this one, but if not, just work in chapters or break it up the way you want to break it up. It doesn't matter. Sudorwrite.
Okay. Is there a quick way? Say, I'm sorry to bother everyone, but if my outline is, say, 2,000 words, or 2,000 or 3,000 words, even, which could be with 30 chapters, is there a way of condensing that so that it fits within the 7?
I wouldn't condense it. I would start a new document.
In a minute, remove me across out of the road so I can see what you're doing again.
I just made a blank document, and I'm going to call it outline.
Mm-hmm.
And then, why isn't that was supposed to be a blank document? Okay, anyway.
Check in the bottom, Miss Lynn. They seem to put them in the bottom and they don't open automatically. We have to open them. There it is.
Oh, is that another? Gotcha. Yeah, okay. But I would start with a blank document, and I'd call it outline.
Mm-hmm.
And I would paste my outline in here. And then that way you can cut and paste it into the outline box as you need it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
These documents, the documents themselves aren't really limited in character space, word space. So you can make them as long as you want and put the stuff that you want to hold in that section.
So in other words, if I did that one and put in Act 1 into the outline and then take it out and put in Act 2. Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. That's the way to do it now until we get it. Anybody else have any questions? Well, in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording. Wait. Da-da-da. Good. Marigold's going to tell you how she did
It's
it.
coming from Marigold there. And she enlarged on what she's just put. I saw a little note on the screen. She wrote 70 chapters on it. She sounds a bit like a junior version of James Patterson, who writes 100-chapter books.
So she
writes about 500
she
words.
writes serial works that are published.
Understand.
Okay. Go ahead and unmute Marigold and explain your method.
Jonna, I actually process my content a couple of different ways depending on what genre I'm writing in. If I am working on a thriller, and my thrillers can have anywhere from, I'd say, 14, 16 beats minimum, all the way up to 20 beats per chapter. And I do that generally because I want to, depending on the book, I might write, okay, so if you're familiar with James Patterson, you know how James Patterson might have multiple POVs in one chapter
Yes.
with scene breaks. I might do that within a chapter, but I set it up so that I can have X number of beats by this POV, this number of beats by another POV. And I will put that inside of my beat card. I do generate all of my beats outside of Sudowrite, and then I bring my beats into Sudowrite. And whenever I do that, it allows me to flesh everything out, get it exactly the way that I want it. Or if I am generating inside of Sudowrite, I do a lot of rewriting to make sure that my beats chronological, so that whatever happens in beat 1 flows into 2, flows into 3, flows into 4, so that by the time I get to the last beat that's a cliffhanger, I know that I then start my next chapter or my next scene with a hook that picks up from where, whatever that last cliffhanger was. But I do that manually, and I do create a new card for each one. So I might actually have a card for maybe 3 different cards for one chapter if I'm going to have different POVs. So again, play with the system. Lynn and Nicole and Manon, they all have different processes, but every time I watch them, I learn something new, and play around with the different processes and see what works for you. What are you running into with yours that you're having a hard time with?
I've never been able to put it this way. Writing short stories for me is virtually impossible. I use too many words, so I've got to have. That's why I'm using 30, 35 chapters to write a story. And that would be normal for me, but I was just trying to work out how to fit 35 chapters into this one single outline box. It just didn't, they don't fit. It kept truncating on me, and it was making me cranky.
So
why I was asking the question.
So what I generally do is I'll work them, think of it as acts. I'll maybe work on Act 1, and maybe that is 20 chapters. And I'll work on those 20, and hopefully they fit in there. If they don't, then I'll work on 10 chapters at a time in my outline. Whatever fits, that's what I put in my outline. And then whenever I'm done generating that content, then I remove it from the outline, and then I put my next set of chapters in my outline, and then I'm able to run the beat cards tied to that specific outline. And I do that because it helps me keep everything in one place.
Sure.
Mhm.
That's what I was looking for. I was looking for a system that I could follow, that I would do the same system all the time rather than switching all over the place. And what you've just told me, Marigold, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And it's given me a method to follow, which is what I was looking for.
Play around with it and see what works with you. I'm going to stop the recording. And let's see. This has been Sudowrite 301. And we covered various problems that people are having, especially getting better prose. And we went over beats and we went over some plugins. So I hope this has helped you, and happy writing.